Hey, it's Webs here with day 3 of the Sunken City Mini-set, A Throne of Tides, and the classes that have been revealed today are Paladin, Priest, and Rogue. And within the cards revealed so far, there are actually a few that are really cool to actually see as they support decks that have been getting a lot of support that haven't made it their way into the meta. So let's begin. The first card revealed was Myrmidon, which is a 3-cost Paladin Naga with 3 attack, 4 HP. After you've cast a spell on this minion, draw a card. So it's draw power for Paladin, something that the deck didn't really necessarily need, but it does serve as a good target once some of the other draw power cards within Paladin actually rotates out. And it does give some Naga synergy within Paladin, which is something that it was actually kind of missing. So there might be some type of Naga Paladin deck floating around at this point. Honestly, this looks like a better version of the one minion from the Storm 1 mini set that I can't remember its name right now, that gains attack whenever you cast a spell on it, but this allows you to draw into more cards. And I honestly will say this will probably see a lot more use than a card like that, just because of the draw power involved. So overall, I think this is a really decent card, and we'll probably see some play. The next card revealed is Light Ray, which is a 9-cost elemental minion for Paladin with 5 attack, 5 HP. Taunt costs 1 less for each Paladin card you've played this game. So if pure Paladin support actually was still in rotation, this might be a lot better than it actually is currently. Though you could easily discount this because a lot of Paladin decks don't run too many neutral cards unless you're playing a mech Paladin, and this honestly fits in any type of control style of Paladin deck, or even like a Reno Paladin deck that someone might be running. It's definitely a card that you don't want to have start in your hand, but if you draw into it later in the game or in the mid game, it's probably going to be a pretty decent card to put down just because it should be discounted to a pretty low spot. Though I do think the stat line might be a little bit too small for it to see too much play as it currently stands. The final Paladin card revealed is Front Lines, which is a 9-cost Paladin spell that summons a minion from both players' decks. Repeat until either side of the battlefield is full. So this could be really good if you're ahead. However, if you're behind, you might not actually give yourself enough minions. In theory, if you run this in a big Paladin deck, you could summon a bunch of big taunts that your opponent can't actually get through if they're an aggro-based deck. But besides that, I think the cost is a little bit too high for it to see too much play. I know Paladin does have some cards that actually help with higher cost spells, but at the same time, this is just a little bit better of a proving grounds for Paladin instead. It's similar to the older card that I can't remember its name right now that summoned a bunch of Murlocs out of the deck for Paladin, and that did see some play because there were some other support cards in some ways to easily get it out of the deck. But honestly speaking, I think unless a big Paladin deck is pushed a little bit more forward, I don't think this card will see too much play. It has a lot of potential depending on how many taunts float around in neutral or Deathrattles that you would want to get, but you're also giving your opponent a large board too, so you might actually just be shooting yourself in the foot. And now for the first Priest card. Herald of the Light is a 3-cost Priest Naga with 3 attack, 4 HP. Battlecry, if you've cast a holy spell while holding this, restore 6 health to all friendly characters. Really neat to see a healing mechanic for Naga Priest. However, I don't think this will fit in current Naga Priest as a deck overall. Some weird Resto like Priest deck where you just recover a bunch of HP, but there's no real big payoff besides Zyrilla because Zyrilla doesn't actually go directly to face, so I don't know how much this card will actually see much play. It's cool to see a return of the if you've done X thing with X School of Magic actually return after like a set or two, but besides that, honestly, sure, restoring 6 HP to all friendly characters is good. I just don't know what deck this currently fits in. Maybe Questline Priest? That would be honestly my best bet, but I don't think it really fits in the deck that it was originally meant for. Now for the next card, Disarming Elemental, which is a 4-cost Priest Elemental with 4 attack, 4 HP. Battlecry, dredge for your opponent, set its cost to 6. So this is really good against aggro matchups where you're going to make one of their cards that they might want to draw into quickly cost 6, but then they won't be actually able to play it for much later in the game. However, besides that, I don't know how reasonable it is to play a card like this, because it does draw your opponent guaranteed into a card that you put at the top of their deck. However, if you purposely brick their top of their deck so they can't actually have any resources to finish off your opponent, this might actually see some play in some type of aggro-based priest deck, which is kind of weird to say, because if you can prevent your opponent from drawing into an AoE spell, you're in a pretty good position. And overall, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this card actually is probably pretty good, just because of the fact that you can force your opponent to draw into something that will just brick them for the next turn. And if you do use Brand Bronzebeard, you could brick them for 2 turns if you really feel like it. It's kind of interesting to see all these opponent deck control mechanics actually make their way into Hearthstone. I know a lot of people are frustrated about those, but it's something that's been missing from Hearthstone for quite a while that is in most other card games, and it's cool to see support for it. It really just depends on how good this is actually going to be, because if it's like the Priest Legendary from Scholomance, then this card will be changed right away. The next card revealed is the final Priest card, which is Drown, which is a 4-cost Priest Shadow spell. Put an enemy minion on the bottom of your deck. So this is definitely a support card for Shadow Priest in particular, because it is a shadow spell. It does give you access to really good removal, which makes the Menagerie Priest deck that I actually put out a little while ago actually a lot better, just because you could shuffle a big taunt minion off of your opponent's board so you can actually just go face. I do think this will probably see a lot of play, mainly in aggro priest decks, but at the same time, a control priest wouldn't mind actually doing something like this, because it does allow you to get rid of a big board threat if your opponent plays some type of really buffed up minion that you need to actually get rid of, and this is probably one of the best removals that you could actually hope for in a situation like that. But honestly, I do think this will just be seen a place in Shadow Priest as a way to prevent your opponent from actually protecting their face with a big taunt minion when you have a bunch of minions on board. There's no reason for a card like this to have the Shadow tag if it wasn't meant for Shadow Priest. Alright, so now time for Rogue. The first card for Rogue is a real shocker, Shattering Shumbler, which is a 1-cost elemental minion for Rogue, which has 1 attack, 3 HP. Battlecry, your next Deathrattle minions cost 1 less, but immediately dies when play. So this instantly triggers the Deathrattle on whatever Deathrattle minion you play after this. And since it isn't on the same turn, you could in theory play this in combination with one of the Humongous Owls. However, the most common use case is probably going to be the naval bombs that were added in the Sunken City set, as Bomb Rogue is already a deck that's been floating around for a little bit. That's actually pretty consistent. Something that I've been wanting to cover, but I'm kind of glad I waited, because a card like this just makes it a lot better, as you do have a way to instantly trigger the 0 attack bombs in Rogue, and that's the main hurdle that that deck actually had, is that you had no way to trigger the actual bomb on your side of the board unless you played some type of damage to minions or to your opponent's face that you rather just use on your opponent's face. Honestly, this is probably one of the better cards in the entire set, and there's no way this doesn't see play in a deck that already is seeing a lot of play right now. Alright, now for the next card, Jackpot, which is a 2-cost rogue spell. Add 2 random spells from other classes that cost 5 or more to your hand. This might be a really good way for Rogue to actually generate some type of AoE board clear, as most higher cost spells in standard right now are either AoE board clears or ways to actually protect your face. And honestly, this is probably going to be a really decent card in Thief Rogue in particular, as it does just give you access to 2 really high cost cards that you wouldn't normally have, and this really actually combos pretty well with both Tess and Contraband. And I definitely love the artwork on this. It's just really cool to see Book Tess again in another piece of artwork, and honestly I can't see a world where this one doesn't actually see play. And now for the final card revealed today, Inkveil Ambusher, which is a 2-cost Naga for rogue with 1 attack, 2 HP, with stealth, and has +3 attack and immune while attacking. This card is going to be absolutely annoying to actually play against because it is a 2 cost for 2 that doesn't have any type of downside. Sure, you're going to have to wait a turn to actually attack with it because it doesn't have rush on it, but because it has stealth, it's very hard to actually remove. And honestly, I can't see a world where this won't see play. And for the people who actually play Arena, I know people have already been asking for this to be just banned in Arena already, and it looks like Blizzard actually pre-planned that one out because this would be absolutely insane in Arena. Even if I don't play Arena, I can see a card that is broken for Standard, and if it's broken there, then most of the time it might be broken in other game modes too. This is probably actually pretty good in Wild. I don't know how good it is, but Stealth Rogue, cool to actually see it's getting a little bit support. However, with all the cards for Stealth Rogue actually rotated out, I don't know how well a deck like this will currently function. It's going to be played no matter what in some type of aggro-based deck. And honestly, this is probably one of the cards that will see a nerf pretty early on if it does become really relevant, as it's just an unfun card to actually play against. Alright, so those were the cards revealed today. Let me know down below which cards you're looking most forward to actually playing and what you're expecting out of the last 3 classes that haven't been revealed so far. Because as it currently stands, we're missing Mage, Demon Hunter, and Hunter. Honestly, out of those 3 classes, I'm expecting Demon Hunter to get the legendary. I could be completely wrong with that assumption, but it would make the most sense. So Mage has already gotten 2 legendaries from a mini set before, so who knows, maybe a 3rd one. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next time, bye bye.